Hello again. It's Crew Call, presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR roots. You can subscribe today at www.flowracing.com. Steve Post, pit reporter for Motor Racing Network, joined by 25-time winning crew chief and a championship winning crew chief on the Cup Series, Todd Gordon. Hello, Todd. How are you?
I'm great.
Fantastic. We had a little bonus Todd Gordon coverage. As you know, Todd is sharing the analyst duties with Rusty Wallace for us on MRN on our coverage this year. Rusty had some travel issues. We went to the bullpen, brought in the championship winning crew chief from upstate New York, and boy, a strategy race at Richmond. I don't know if I had a ball covering that race. I don't know. Did you have a good time covering that one as well?
Yeah, definitely did. That was one that I was tempted to go up there and just to watch the race. Talk to Bagley a little bit about. I was talking about standing on the turn 3 tower over there just to watch the race because love racing at Richmond. I love these places where the tire fall off happens and it drives the pit crews and the crew chiefs to making strategy calls and making execution on pit road. And we saw things through stage 2. We saw different things in stage 3. We saw 2 different strategies, you know, with Rudy and James, who's coming up here in a little bit.
Exactly. Yep.
Kind of being out on one strategy, and then Denny and Kevin Harvick being on a different strategy of shortening up the last run. And they worked out with, 3 laps to go?
Yeah.
And one untimely caution could throw everybody in a tizzy. So just so many opportunities, the things that are going on with the race that I was glad to be up there so I could share a little bit of that. I probably didn't do as well as I needed to, but would love to be able to share that kind of what you can see out of the race because it's a lot deeper than just watching cars.
Well, we had at one point Adam Stevens and Christopher Bell found themselves in that stage 2. Found themselves right in the middle of it. And Chris Gabehart and Denny Hamlin, they jockeyed, they put themselves one up on tires on everybody, which allowed them to do a quick pit stop as well. It's just fascinating. It really is.
It is. And you know, this is a race that races everywhere. It's not just the drivers and the cars.
Yeah.
It's the pit crews and it's the strategies. It brings the crew chiefs, the engineers into the race. And that's part of being an ex-crew chief. That's part of what I love about this is that you get to have an impact on it. And you saw Chris Gabehart make a great call there because they were really Denny in the 11 and Chris in the 20 car.
Right.
Christopher Bell
were
the 2 that split that in half and went long. And I thought Denny was in trouble.
Yeah.
Because they didn't keep up with the speed that Christopher Bell did. Christopher Bell came out, you know, great with that strategy. And Chris reacted to that, having the set of tires. Quick caution comes. Denny takes those stickers and drives right back up to 7th before the next caution. And he adjusts the call for the stage 3 and says, I'm not going to split it in half. I'm going short on it, and ends up being a race winner.
The other thing that stands out to me, you're right. It's such a strategy, the engineers, the driver, but a good race car is still a good race car.
And different race cars have different strengths. You saw cars that had good long-run speed, cars that had good short-run speed, and the cars that had good long-run speed made sense to go longer. And so there's a lot of comers and goers. There was a lot of confusion on what was going on, but in the end, we had everything come together, and what a great race.
The finish, I love. I really like the William Byron Rudy Fugle combination. I think that's championship caliber combination. Stay tuned. We'll see how that plays out. But the communication, I flipped over to their channel. I had their pit area. I flipped over to their channel one time, and Rudy just said, William, you are going to get passed. You're going to get passed by cars going a lot faster than you. Just trust the system, save your car, save your tires, drive straight into the corner, drive straight up off in the corner, don't abuse your car, and it'll work out all right. Within 3 laps, it just about did. To Williams' credit, he did that.
Yep.
And that's the thing I find fascinating.
Yeah, he stayed engaged, stayed on par
the game,
with the whole game.
Exactly.
And it netted out to a 3rd place finish. And a caution that fell anywhere from 35 to go to 5 to go.
Oh.
And they're coming down pit road getting tires. They got a chance to go win that thing. I don't think that they were a race winner with where their track position was before Rudy made the call to put them on that strategy. So, what a great race in that respect. But explaining that to everybody on the radio, that was a challenge and one that I look forward to doing better.
I think you did well. I got done with it. I'm like, man, I'm tired. mentally tired following this, but
Yes.
that's a good race. That's a fun stuff. So that's for sure. We referenced it. We are going to talk to James Small, a fourth place finish for those guys. They were on the same strategy of William Byron, I think, at the end. Again, the pen got burnt up making notes on that. James Small, crew chief for Martin Truex Jr. So he joins us from over at Joe Gibbs Racing coming up next. Welcome back. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots Racing. FlowRacing.com is where you can find out. Let's go right to the hotline. Joining us from over at Joe Gibbs Racing is crew chief on that number 19 car from Martin Truex Jr. James Small joins us. Hello, James. Welcome back to Crew Call. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you guys?
We are doing well, that is for sure. And coming off Richmond and coming off your best finish of the season, just how are you feeling? How are things progressing up at Joe Gibbs Racing for you guys?
Yeah, definitely feeling a lot better, especially after the weekend. We got our teeth kicked in at Phoenix, and we went back to the drawing board and thought really long and hard about what we're doing. And the weekend was a major step forward in, that short track style racing.
James, you allude to got your teeth kicked in at Phoenix. There's been a lot of talk about your lack of speed so far this year as an organization. And you look back and there's an asterisk to that because I felt like you and Kyle were racing for the win at Vegas had not a late caution come out. But do you feel like this is one step towards it? Do you feel like you guys are turning the corner on understanding what this car needs at all the racetracks, or was this just a short track piece that you feel we've made a little gain on?
I think, it kind of applies to all tracks. Even the week before at Coda, we tried some things and we're different all across the board. And even from the road course, it kind of opened our eyes, to a few things that we needed to do different for there. And I think it's just so different on a conceptual level, and you need to get, all that old stuff out of your head and think about it a different way. So I think it doesn't matter where we're going. I think every week we're learning something, and, it's definitely, helping, every track, I think.
Yeah. And third in points, really without, as we talked about, without dominating speed, you have to be encouraged by that, understanding that your organization is going to bring speed, and it seems like your execution and getting what you can out of the weekends has been top notch.
Yeah, I think, we've only had the one DNF at Phoenix, and then outside of that, I think the worst we finished is 13th. So although we've run, we haven't had race-winning speed. We've been there or thereabouts in the top 10 a lot of the weeks, and, the points have been so, fluctuating a lot this year. So many people, haven't been consistent or had one or two bad races, and everyone's up and down like a yo-yo. So, that consistency's kind of helped us to put us where we are.
Is there encouragement also, and you talked about broad picture things, but we've had a short track Richmond, we've had a road course Coda, and a super speedway-ish sort of thing at Atlanta, and you're riding 3 straight top 10s. Is that kind of pointing to across the board you guys are finding your way a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. The time will tell how we start to perform at some of these other tracks coming up, because, you've got some different things with Dover and Darlington and all of that coming along. So, I feel like every week we learn something new, and, it's just helping push the whole program along. So we'll see. We'll see how we go here soon.
You talk about new things coming along. You guys debuted a new pit stop strategy last weekend. Do you see that? Obviously, we saw the gains of the rear guy getting out there initially and not having guys running around each other. It seemed like it was kind of unison coming around the car. But do you see that as a situational or a permanent change for you guys?
I still think it's a little situational. It depends on who you pitted around, what box you've got. The track, like Martinsville, will be difficult, especially if you're in the curb or if you've got someone right on top of you. So it's not set in stone. Obviously, it'd be nice to just have one, but I think we're going to have to chop and change for a while here, which, might make things a little difficult, but we'll see how we go.
Yeah, that's my question with it is that, and you're not the pit crew coach, but you rely on the pit crew coach. So it is possible for you to go back and forth between the two different formats?
It is, it requires, a little bit of notice just on how you have to set up the guys behind the wall with the hoses and everything, and who's catching and rolling tires. So, so far the weekend it was pretty easy for us in that we could do it every time, and we were lucky. But I don't think it'll be like that every week, and I'm sure at some point it's going to go haywire, and we'll have to cross that bridge when we come to it.
That's what makes racing cool, is we've got all these opportunities in front of us. Hey, listening to you, you're not native to the United States. Tell us your story of how you got here to where you are today.
So I came here the end of 2013. Worked in V8 supercars prior to that for a long time, and grew up in racing with my dad in Australia and racing myself. And then, I could have got a job at Penske or RCR, and I ended up going the RCR route and worked there for a few years before I moved out to Denver and worked with those guys. And then obviously when that came to an end, ended up at JGR with Cole and everybody on the 19, and I've been here ever since. So it's been a great ride, and I've worked with some incredible people and learned a lot along the way.
Your dad, Lee, has a long and storied history in V8 supercars, and you worked in V8 supercars from 2006 to 2013. I know very little about this generation of race car, but I've talked to people and say they're very similar, or there are similarities to the V8 supercars. You probably have the most experience of anybody. Are there things on this race car that reflect that, or is that just wishful thinking?
No, I think my last year there, 2013, we went to a new car, which was an independent rear end like we have now. Very similar brakes, similar horsepower levels, tires, everything. Definitely some similarities, but, we all talk about aero and everything, and this car just behaves incredibly different with the diffuser and how you have to approach that. So that's one thing out there that, you don't have to consider. And there's still a lot more freedom for now out there, and a lot of, some of the cool things us engineers like to play with bars and shocks and geometry and things like that. So, they're same, but quite different at the same time.
You look at it, looking forward to Martinsville here. You guys have won 3 of the last 5 Martinsville races. What makes you guys so good there?
Yeah, Martin has a real, a very good technique at short track racing, just how he approaches it. He's very easy on the tires, and he's just been doing it a long time now. And people didn't claim that he was very good at short tracks, but there was a lot of times where he led a lot of laps and it kind of fell apart at the end. So, I'm lucky to work with him. He knows what he needs there. It's like Richmond. We went in there thinking we could win the race or run 15th. And it's the same thing this weekend. Everything you used to do is irrelevant now. And it's just about trying to switch our brains over and work out, we know what works at Martinsville, and then try to how we do that with a new car and accomplish that. So hopefully we can do that.
James, much of the discussion this year about the new car is it's been the great equalizer. We've seen teams that traditionally don't run up front running up front. And I went into Richmond thinking this might be the old unequalizer where teams that run up front, or it's more traditional, or that track relates more to the older generation car than this one. Do you see it that way? And do you expect Martinsville to be similar in that guys like Martin are going to shine no matter what generation of car we have at a place like that?
I think that's a hard one. I think Richmond is so different in that, the way the grip level is and the way the surface is and how you have to manage your tires so much and things like that. I think, you saw at the Coliseum, there was a lot of the young guys that very little experience. It just drove the absolute piss out of it. And I think, to make that time at Martinsville this weekend, given how cold it is and everything, that, that same thing might apply. So, I don't expect it to be the same as Richmond. I think you'll see a mixture of people up there, in my opinion.
You talk about, how cold it is, night race and 400 laps, both of which should change up a little bit of how the flow of this race works for you. How do you see that impacting you guys?
Yeah, like if we don't get any yellows, it's going to be a very fast race. We'll see how that goes. But, there won't be many times, to either work on the car or adjust. It's going to be interesting. And, given, remember back 2019, that first race there when it was really cold and there was very little fall off, you couldn't pass. These guys are saying these cars are, very terrible in traffic, really. You've got the same characteristics of 2019 now, but with less overall downforce. So I hope it's not a follow the leader race, unless we're in front. But yeah, it's
well played.
It could be, yeah, it could be pretty lame, but we'll see how it goes.
Do you feel like temperature or sunlight, or I know you guys and us back in the days raced through a couple of spectacular finishes when I was with Joey, but the track seemed like it'd take rubber sometimes and not other times. Do you feel like that's that'll be worse at night or with the temperatures we're talking about, or how do you feel rubber's going to affect that?
Yeah, I think it might be worse. It just all depends on what this tire Goodyear is taking. Is like. We don't really have a good feel for it. There was the only time this car's tested, there was a wheel force test there early last year, and it was relatively warmer as well. And I think people were just trying to work out what to do at that point. So we're going in with a lot of unknowns, and the weather itself doesn't look that crash hot in terms of maybe some rain as well. So I really don't know what to expect. We're all kind of flying into the unknown.
A lot of us reporters and in the media, we talk about Martinsville because you have this race this weekend and then you have the next to last race for the playoffs. It is a key race. Well, depends on where you're at. If you're locked into Phoenix, it's another race. If you're not locked into Phoenix, it's a very key race. Does that factor into you? Do you think about that, or especially this year, so much is going to change? I mean, will it apply or don't we know yet?
I think so much is going to change.
Yeah.
I feel like, if you're going back to Martinsville 2 with what you're doing for Martinsville 1, you probably haven't learned enough. So I think every week we're evolving, and, you're going to learn some stuff, and you're going to learn a lot about, the brakes and, just the fundamentals. But, overall, I think we'll take a pretty big step by the time we get back there later in the year.
You mentioned the brakes. It'd be a huge benefit to have the brakes that we have now. I think the two things I'd like to get your comments on: one, where you think the brakes will be, because we used to have bead issues, but I feel like we run so much cooler with these big brakes that we've got. And two, how do you think sequential shifter and will that play into the race at all?
Yeah, the brakes is, this car so far, they're incredibly, temperature sensitive in terms of, just, I'm sure you both listened on the weekend, guys having a lot of issues, which Richmond is common for, but we had the same thing at Phoenix. I feel like it's everyone's still in that learning phase of, what the optimum temperature is they need to be at, but, for performance and not overheating versus not having them too cold to have them vibrate and all of that. So, I'd hope we won't have an issue. That's not normally a thing at Martinsville, but as you say, they're all going to run a lot colder. I think it's going to be harder to pass now, especially with everybody having bigger brakes. The braking distances are going to be shorter. The cars are more draggier. We have less power. Like, all these things are kind of working against, trying to make it, it's going to be harder to pass for sure. And then, we'll just have to see how that goes. So, and the shifting thing, I don't know. I think we're going to run around in fourth gear there is what they've, worked on everything with. I think if you get bogged down, maybe you'll be able to be going back to third. But, even on the weekend, we thought shifting could be a thing. But, the way the rear tires, struggle to hang on in these cars, that's, one thing you got to consider. And, it might work for a few laps, but it's not going to work over a run.
The variables just fascinate me from track to track, and that's why I love getting a chance to talk with you guys. Love hanging out with Todd as well to kind of get that perspective on what we might be dealing with. I want to go a little off track and a little maybe less serious. On Saturday night or Sunday afternoon, were the Lucky Socks on? Have we gone back to the Lucky Socks, or is that a thing of the past?
I had taken them off for a while, and I dragged them back out on the weekend because they had 3 Richmond wins. And, sadly, I messed it up. So, I might hide them again for a while.
Okay, there we go. Any other? My understanding is you're very superstitious. Are there other things that you do that are part of your race weekend or routine on a weekend?
I always have to get out of the right side of the bed and put my left shoe on first. So, I'm a weirdo, I tell you.
I love it.
And that's serious, huh?
Yeah.
Okay.
I love it. That's fun stuff, that's for sure. Well, James, it's been fun to watch you guys. I echo what Todd said. You haven't had the race-winning speed, but you guys have gotten everything. You've squeezed everything out of those cars on most occasions to put yourself in a nice spot in points. Can't wait to see what happens when you get that speed. And I didn't say if you get that speed. I said when you get that speed. We wish you the best at Martinsville. Maybe you can grab a grandfather clock and celebrate the win. But thanks for joining us here on Crew Call.
No worries. Thanks for having me, guys.
There we go. That's James Small, crew chief up at Joe Gibbs Racing for Martin Truex Jr. It is Crew Call presented by Flow Racing. You can subscribe to Flow Racing. It's the new home of NASCAR roots. Catch the Whelen Modifieds, the ARCA Menard Series, the Pinties, and NASCAR Weekly Tour races, all on flowracing.com. Subscribe today. This weekend, a lot of NASCAR Weekly Series racing. Continuing at Hickory and Evergreen, but this week we add Langley. Up in Virginia, Meridian in Idaho, and All-American Speedway out in Roseville, California are all added this weekend, plus a lot of dirt track racing. You can learn more and find out more at www.flowracing.com, and you can subscribe today. I really have enjoyed getting to know James Small in this garage. He was in the wings when Cole Pern was there. Cole decided to head to the mountains abruptly, and James has come in. He's a 5-time winner. He seems to be manning the ship pretty well over there.
Yeah, definitely. I was looking back at his stats before the interview today, and 2 races with Eric Jones back when they first rolled him in, both top 10s. So done a great job. I think he earned the opportunity. I think Martin's talked a little bit about him and Cole being brothers from different parts of the world.
Yep.
But really calm thinker. They do the things they need to do. Obviously, look at him, 3rd in points, and we really haven't talked a lot about that team as far as race win and speed, but outside of Vegas. But they're putting it together, and like you said, when they find that speed, because organizations like JGR, the big organizations, they don't lack long. They'll figure it out. By the time we get to the 600, I think we're going to be talking about they found their way back definitely by that point. So. Be fun to see what he does for the rest of the season.
He's very colorful on the radio too. He is a swearer. He is a cusser and swearer.
Really?
Oh yeah. No, it's funny. And actually, Jordan Bianchi with The Athletic had a great article on James in, I think it was September of last year, because I thought Cole Pern was like one of the best swearers on the radio. Great listens, colorful listens, whatever Fox does with their in-car audio, that feature they do with it. Come to find out that James is the one that introduced all of the salty language to Furniture Row Racing.
Okay.
And Cole actually relayed an awkward thing where he's in the middle of a story at a family dinner, and the next thing you know, he knows he's sounding a little bit more like James, and the family is shocked, a little horrified. So very colorful to listen to. Of course, the accent is part of it. And then it's just funny with Martin being so laid back as well. It's a great duo. It really is.
Yeah, it definitely is. And look for great things out of him.
I really do.
Awesome interview today.
Yeah, awesome interview. I look for great things out of him, and maybe as soon as Saturday night.
History has said. We say he's won 3 of the last 5, and he's been, when we were winning polls against Martin when I was back with Joey.
Yeah.
And that's, Martin's been one of the guys there at Martinsville. And we saw that out of Richmond last weekend. The guys that knew how to run Richmond ran Richmond again. At one point late in the race, the 4 Gibbs cars were in the top 6. So, and I think they finished all top 10. So,
all top 10s, and then you had Harvick up there who knows how to run Richmond as well.
Guys that know how to run that place figured it out.
I think
and I think Martinsville is going to follow the same way.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so. We'll see. We'll see what happens, that's for sure. We will be busy at Martinsville this weekend on Motor Racing Network. It starts Thursday evening, 7:30 Eastern Time. It is the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 200 for the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. Can't wait. I love my Truck Series racing. On Friday, a couple of broadcasts, 4:30 Eastern Time. It's NASCAR Cup Series practice and qualifying. And then at 7 p.m. Eastern Time, oh, this one just rolls off the tongue. Call 811 before you dig 250, powered by 811.com. NASCAR Xfinity Series race. And then on Saturday, 6:30, it's the Blue Emu Maximum Pain Relief 400 for the NASCAR Cup Series. You had asked, James, about a 400 laps around Martinsville. I think we don't know what the intensity is going to be like, but that shorter distance can't hurt anything with the intensity up there.
No, if you asked me, I'd make it 350.
Really? There we go. Yeah.
I'm on the shorten the race up bandwagon. I think because especially there, it's a grind. 500 there is a grind, and it just gets almost, it lulls you in the middle of it. So we'll see a little more urgency out of all these teams cutting 100 laps out of it.
Yeah, you don't have that 100 laps at the end to recover.
No, you gotta be on your game.
Got to be on your game, that's for sure. It's going to be fun stuff. He is Todd Gordon. I am Steve Post. Thanks for joining us again here on Crew Call, presented by Flow Racing, the new home of NASCAR Roots. You can subscribe today at www.flowracing.com.